The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
I am Emily Swallow, also known as the Armorer on The Mandalorian. And I'm just giving a little shout out to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast because this is the way.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies, books, TV shows, and more, we're looking into the deeper themes and meanings found in the Star Wars universe. And this week, we're discussing Tales of the Underworld, Asajj Ventress. Be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Wars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite podcast app, or on the StarQuest YouTube channel. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X, where we are at SQPN, and on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And be sure to get your official Secrets of Star Wars gear at SQPN.com/merch. I'm your host, Thomas Salerno, and joining me tonight on the panel is Angela Sealana. Hello, Angela.
Greetings, Thomas. Good to be here.
And Robert King. Hello, Robert.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm great. So we are going to be digging into this latest Tales of story animated series, and I've just been loving these little shorts as they come out, and I hope we get a lot more of them in the future. But before we start on a recap of each of these three shorts featuring Asajj Ventress, I just want to get your guys' initial reactions, kind of overall thoughts on this batch of stories. What do you think, Angela? What did you think of Asajj Ventress's return to the screen?
Well, I was so excited because Asajj Ventress is a fascinating character. I've always really enjoyed whenever she's on screen or on the page. And so I was very much looking forward to this, and I was not disappointed. I think it's probably like my second favorite of the Tales of series. And I'm just really eager to get into it. But overall, I would say it wasn't like mind-blowing as far as the story goes. But I think I just really enjoyed the kind of the peek into the heart and soul of Asajj Ventress in an interesting little story arc that we have here. So, yeah.
What about you, Robert?
I was also really looking forward to this series because, like you, Angela, Asajj is one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars sort of universe, and she's such a rich and complex anti-hero, and I love a good anti-hero story. And I think for that reason, I was expecting a stronger moment of change or conversion in her. And what we got was, as you said, it was a peek into her heart. It was almost like a slice of life of Asajj Ventress. And so I was disappointed, but I think a lot of that was because of my expectations coming to it. As Yoda says, when you go into the cave, you find what you bring with you.
Yeah.
So I think I was looking for a bigger story, and this was like a small personal glimpse into Asajj. I like the way you put it, a glimpse into her heart. So I appreciated it, but I can't say I enjoyed it as much as I wanted to.
Well, I
Wah,
can't. I can't say that Asajj has been a favorite character of mine, but I've certainly been intrigued by her character ever since her first appearance in the Genndy Tartakovsky 2D shorts and her epic duel with Anakin Skywalker. So I've always been intrigued and fascinated by her character. I had not read the Dark Disciple novel that a lot of people talk about, though my brother has, and kind of put me off actually of reading it. He didn't care for it, but be that as it may, I knew the controversy around how is she alive again, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So I was interested to see what they would do, because of course she's recently appeared in Bad Batch, and so yeah, I was interested to see where they were going to take this character next. And I actually liked these shorts quite a bit. I didn't know what to expect, so I think I was kind of generally pleased, because my expectations were, I don't know what this is going to be. Let's see what they offer us. So I was, I enjoyed them overall, and I really haven't disliked any of these Tales of stories yet. So I'm just glad we got to see more of what Asajj Ventress is up to. So let me start with a brief recap for the first episode, which is called A Way Forward. So after Asajj Ventress dies, her body is returned to Dathomir by Jedi Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Resurrected by Night Sister sorcery, Asajj tries to settle down into a life of peace and quiet under the reign of the Empire. Yet she soon encounters Jedi Padawan Lyko Strata and agrees to help him find the Path, a secret escape route for surviving Jedi on the run. Ventress and Lyko defeat an Imperial Inquisitor and escape on a starship, hoping to discover intel on the Path. So, right off the bat in this, we have this visual theme of death and resurrection with a sacrifice, which I thought was very interesting. There was a very kind of dark fantasy novel vibe around this opening sequence, which I got a real kick out of. What about you guys?
Robert, have you read Dark Disciple?
I have not.
Oh, I have. Can I talk first?
Yes.
Go, please.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I love Dark Disciple. It's like one of my favorite Star Wars novels. So I'm sad that your brother didn't like it. But so this first scene is actually described in the novel at the end, obviously. Oh. So prior to her death, Asajj had been assisting Quinlan Vos on this secret mission that the Jedi Council decided to kill Count Dooku to try to end the Clone Wars. And it was a bad idea, of course. It was a bad idea. The Jedi have a lot of those bad ideas, apparently, during this time period. But bad Obi-Wan... Jedi. Yeah. So Obi-Wan, of course, being very sensible, he disagreed with that decision. But he suggested that Quinlan Vos should be the person to carry this out. And then Yoda suggests that he partner with Asajj because Asajj was the former apprentice of Count Dooku, which we hear about in this arc. So along the way, Quinlan and Asajj teach each other kind of the ways of the Force from their own perspectives. And more so, Quinlan learns about the dark side, which is why the novel is called Dark Disciple. And they create this bond of trust. It leads into a romantic relationship between them, which you see, him expressing his love for her as he's.
Is this a kissing book?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there is a romance side to it, yes, but it's more so, I think, a psychological mystery thriller kind of book. I don't want to give too much away about the book, but so essentially she had sacrificed herself for Quinlan because Dooku was going to kill him. And so she had already sacrificed herself for him. And that was the point that I wanted to make, was that you're talking about sacrifice and resurrection. Well, she had previously just died to protect Quinlan, and that sacrifice is ultimately what keeps Quinlan from going down the dark path, ultimately. So I don't really understand why she chose to resurrect back to life in this episode at the cost of her heart's desire, which I assume is to be with Quinlan, because she had already sacrificed herself for him. So I don't really get why she would have wanted to be alive again, but she makes a decision. So
well, I guess
anyway.
The alternative is spending eternity with a bunch of creepy Night Sister wraiths. So
you say that like it's a bad thing.
That might have influenced her decision, perhaps. What I'm interested in now is the potential for other Night Sister characters who we have seen die on screen, perhaps
to resurrect. Right, exactly, yeah.
From the afterlife. If this is possible with Night Sister necromancy.
I guess if they're taken back to Dathomir, maybe that would be a possibility. In these pools.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's part of the formula for
might be tied to that
resurrecting
place.
a Night Sister. Yeah,
which reminds me too of Thrawn's line that death and resurrection are common deceptions, played out by both the Night Sisters and the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, two things. The first, like one of the things that I was kind of disappointed in was I was completely hooked by that. Asajj asks at what cost, and they say your heart's desire, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be an exploration of her struggling to let go of her heart's desire, and I didn't really get that out of the series, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you saw something that I didn't see, but that was one of the things that I felt like, I just wanted more from this series.
That through line could have been a lot stronger and could have, I see where you're going with that. Yeah, it could have united all three episodes around a common theme. Yeah.
But then the other, just a much more sort of practical, plot-oriented thing. It seemed like there was a significant jump in time between when she was laid in the pools and when she reemerged with her body intact, and either that or she came out in different pools. But I kind of took it as a shift in time, because I'm taking that she died fighting Dooku. Well, that would have had to be during the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And when she reemerges, we don't see how long she's traveling between the pools and her, being the security guard at the ticket station. But it doesn't feel like it's that long, and yet that is well into the Imperial era. That's kind of like it felt contemporary with Ahsoka or with Obi-Wan Kenobi or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. It's almost as if Dave Filoni or I forget the name. I put it on my notes, but the head writer of this arc, it's almost as if they were trying to telegraph these things like subtly to the audience by having Quinlan say, "I'll always love you," as he's, burying her, and then, "Oh, your heart's desire. Oh, what is that?" Well, I mean, it's almost like if you read the book, then you sort of know what her heart's desire is in this case. At least that's why I'm assuming. And then, yeah, we just have to have the knowledge of the Star Wars timeline in order to know that she, I guess, has been, as you're saying, the security guard at the ticket booth for a long time, doing this quiet sort of gig. So I agree with you that that's not the strongest thing about the writing here, but it is interesting at the same time that she chose to resurrect, and then she just, I mean, I think we already knew, right, from previous Star Wars content that she chose this quiet, low-key kind of life for herself. Because before, her life was so complicated and flashy, you know?
Yeah. And there's that kind of, you know, balance in this. She's trying to strike this balance. You know, she's working this job that she knows she'd be good at, beating people up and throwing them out of places.
Yes.
And, you know, by her own admission, doesn't want the life of a bounty hunter, assassin, underworld figure anymore, and wants to live this quiet life, yet she's thrust into this situation where she has to make a split decision, a second decision of, is she going to do the right thing when she sees a person in trouble who she can help? And I find it is interesting that she makes the decision she makes. And Angela, do you think that's influenced by her time with Quinlan Voss? Because she goes out of her way to help a Jedi, which I found pretty surprising.
Yeah, there's a lot that you learn about Asajj from that novel and how she, again, how her heart works. And that's why I find her to be such a fascinating character. Honestly, she's interesting because she's been trained in the dark side. She ultimately decides, as we see, to live unselfishly, maybe against her first instinct. I don't know. But she has compassion for people who have suffered like her. And we even saw that when she was a bounty hunter. I don't know if you remember in the Clone Wars, there were several times where she had an opportunity to help somebody out who was in trouble. And specifically, I'm thinking about, there was a young girl, I think she was a princess, who was kidnapped, and she had an opportunity to help her. I think she really has this compassionate side that was never corrupted from the dark side. And maybe that has something to do with being a Night Sister. I don't know. Or maybe it's just her.
Well, she both a Jedi and herself come from a class of people who've been targeted for extermination by, I think in the case of the Night Sisters, it was General Grievous and the Separatists. And with the Jedi, you know, obviously in the case of the very beginnings of the Empire. So maybe she feels compassion and pity on this person because she's like, I know what it's like to be one of the last of my kind, you know, and on the run from people, you know, who are more powerful.
And as I understand it, you know, Order 66 isn't just about kill all the Jedi. It's about round up all the Force users. And so she may not be immediately targeted for death, but it's sort of like death or serve the Empire.
Those are your two options. Yeah.
Yeah. So the cake is a lie. You have to, you know, it's not cake or death. It's service or death and service to the Empire. And, so it's not as if her decision to defend the kid whose name we eventually learn is Lyko, her decision to defend him isn't completely without self-interest.
Right.
Because she is as much a target as he is.
Although in my first viewing, I was like, there's a little bit of the Good Samaritan in this situation, you know, where she reaches out to help a essentially complete stranger, you know, knowing that there are risks involved, you know.
Right. I think what's interesting is that, you know, she wants this quiet life, but ultimately she doesn't. I think the episodes, at least the way that I read them, show us that she wants to do the right thing ultimately. It's not the comfortable thing, and she's okay with that. I think because she is used to losing so much. She's lost so much in her past. And on a certain level, she's used to losing things, giving things up. And so when it comes to doing the right thing, helping somebody out who she sees herself in, she says, okay, I can let go of this because I'm already used to losing everything anyway. I'm just going to lose this comfort and just, I need to help this person because I see myself in them. And ultimately, even though it's may not be perfect in terms of her motivations, like you're saying, Robert, I think that is what we're called to do, right? Like from a Christian perspective, we're called to see not just ourselves, but also see Christ in the other person and want to help them. So yeah, that was kind of what I picked up from. It's almost like, our vocation, if we're made in the image of God and God is love, then we are sort of seeing ourselves in other people if we're loving them, right?
Sure. Yeah, and it's this side of heaven, our motives are never going to be unmixed, right?
Yeah.
I have friends who was like, I want to do something good, but I'm not sure my motives are pure enough. And it's like, well, don't wait for your motives to be pure enough. They're not. You're never going to get there. Not on this side of heaven. But still, do the good thing, and that's what we see Asajj doing here. Is like, I don't want to, and I'm probably doing this for all the wrong reasons, but I still know this kid needs help, and I'm the only one who can help him, and so here I go.
Yep. I did enjoy the final lightsaber fight of this episode, although I was struck. Lyco, he stabs that Inquisitor in the back, and I was like, that
Double
is
stab.
not the Jedi way. I'm like, but I thought we might get more of that sort of theme, like he's not acting like a true Jedi, but no, they just dropped that. But I was like, I know he's saving her life, but at the same time, I'm like, ooh, in the back,
right?
And and I guess also the Inquisitorius sent another one of these guys to get killed by a Force user way above their league. But
that's what Inquisitors are for.
Yeah. And anything else about this episode before we move on? Did we miss anything?
No, but are you saying that Inquisitors are kind of like the NPCs of Star Wars?
yeah, NPCs, or like, those mini bosses who are, there to just get, to get XP from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the show.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, every character in Star Wars is there for the plot. I mean, this is Star Wars is not terribly consistent about, having a wide, making sure that everyone in the universe feels like a fully realized character.
And some are just there to look cool.
I mean, and some of them, should have been left there just to look cool and would have been better that way. Boba Fett.
Whoa, some people need to cover their ears. Turn down your podcast now. I was kidding.
All right, so we move on to Friends, not the famous sitcom, but the second episode of this trilogy of shorts.
Somebody needs to edit this into a Friends, with the theme song and everything. I'll be there for you.
Oh my goodness.
And then we will start trying to figure out who's who in the episode. But anyway, Asajj and Lyco team up with bounty hunter Latz Razi, I think I'm saying that right, and her assassin droid C-21, who have intel on the path. In exchange for the info, they take part in a scheme to steal an Imperial shield component from a heavily defended shipyard. When the heist goes sideways, Latz and C-21 try to collect a bounty on Lyco instead, but Ventress intervenes and compels Latz to hand over the path coordinates. So as soon as this one opens, I like the banter now that is established between these two very different characters, between Lyco and Asajj. I like that kind of, buddy Jedi, I guess, kind of dynamic that they have. But I also sensed a little bit of this theme of trust versus prudence, because, Asajj is like, you have to trust me. You're the one in trouble here. I know how to get around. I can help you. And, Lyco's like, is it really prudent to trust you? You admitted that you're a separatist assassin who's killed Jedi. I'm a Jedi. Who's to say you're not going to stab me in the back? It reminds me of that line from the Fellowship of the Ring book when the hobbits first meet Strider, and Sam's like, who's to say you didn't kill the real Strider and take his clothes? So there's that kind of mistrust right in the beginning. But
I kind of took that as joking, though.
Oh, yeah.
Lyco is this is the sort of opposites dynamic between them. Lyco is this chipper, talkative, almost optimistic kid on the run who will jump into anything and try anything and has no clue how much he's broadcasting his Jedi training and worldview.
Yes. And smell like a Jedi.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, it smells his armpits. It's like,
yeah.
And it's like, and Asajj is the archetype of the grumpy mentor in this.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can't do it. It's Yoda from Empire Strikes Back, on steroids. It's and it's a great dynamic, but like both of them have issues with trust, and Lyco is sort of too ready to trust, and I think Asajj mistakes caution for prudence.
Interesting.
Well, coming from a dark side perspective, I don't think anyone who's ever been trained in the dark side can really fully trust someone. I don't know. I mean,
tell us more about how you've been trained in the dark
side. Well, I take that back. So she trusted Quinlan. I mean, she came to trust him, definitely. I have a sense that she knows who is worthy of trust, maybe, but as whether she makes the decision to go all in with them is another thing, if that makes sense, because she's been betrayed so many times, in her past. And so, I wonder, it's interesting. She's almost like the master, and he's like the apprentice in this arc,
Yeah.
So how much does she rub off on him? I mean, like you're saying, he's a very optimistic kid, but then is he taking something from her? Especially when what's Lots?
Yeah.
Lots Rotzi. When she kind of starts showing her cards a little bit, it is an interesting exploration. Ultimately, he doesn't. I don't feel that he makes a whole lot of change personally. As a character through this episode. But do you disagree with that?
No.
I think he learns a little bit about like who to trust, and also he faces like, the dangers of this type of situation that, that he's found himself in. I mean, and learns from, like Asajj says, in this line of work, you don't have friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there are no friends there, you know, in the sense that, like, you know, you always got to be on the lookout because everybody's in it for the score. Right. So, you know, there's always that possibility of betrayal. You know, he thinks he can trust these people, and then it turns out they're willing to turn him in as soon as thing goes south and they don't have that shield component. They're like, well, let's turn in the kid, may recoup our expenses for this mission and some more. So it's like, you know, he's learning, I think, to be more circumspect maybe about who he puts his trust in. But yeah, I think maybe they could have shown that better, you know.
I just feel like he got lucky. He got lucky that he met Asajj first, and she helped him out and happened to help him out, I guess.
Yeah.
And he formed a bond of trust with her in that sense. But what if Lyco had been, or what if Lots had been the one that he met first, and Lots recognized that he was a Jedi, and Lots defended him, you know, against the Inquisitor, and then ultimately turned him in. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I was convinced that he really learned a lesson, other than what you're saying. You know, he realized that there are certain people you can't trust. Yeah,
you can't trust, right? Because go ahead, Robert.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think you're right that this is very much a master student dynamic in this episode, and like all great master student stories, the student ends up teaching the master something. And I think that's what the episode is about, is Lyco realizing that, oh, I need to teach Asajj how to trust somebody.
How to be a friend.
I need to teach her that she herself is trustworthy.
That's
by putting my trust in her.
And we'll see that theme of, like, you know, teaching Asajj those things explored in the next episode as well, too. I think another thing that gets explored here is this idea of loyalty versus expediency, you know, whereas, you know, Lots is just like, you know, I'm going to do what's expedient. And if that means, you know, turning you in, that's what it's going to be. Whereas with Asajj, he feels like, you know, there's that they're having this bond between them is growing. And with that bond of sort of almost embryonic friendship here comes the seed of loyalty between them, you know, because and he's, you know, what is it? Because Lots sort of like tempts him at some point too. You know, we're trying to put that seed of doubt in his mind that Asajj is not trustworthy, you know, and ultimately he doesn't act on that, you know. So I feel like that they both Asajj and Lyco show that sort of growing loyalty to one another.
Which is cool because Asajj herself was the bounty hunter in a previous life. And really, to be a bounty hunter and make good money, you have to be expedient, right? Yeah. Okay, maybe we'll talk about this theme again with Cad Bane, too. I haven't seen those episodes, but when you think about him as a character, as a bounty hunter, he does have a little bit of a loyalty thing going on, which is interesting. But in any case, for the most part, bounty hunters are expedient versus loyal. So it's cool to see someone who used to be a bounty hunter, right, choose to represent loyalty in this particular situation.
Right, yeah. And also just this kind of idea, too, of how far are you willing to go to get what you want, you know? And are you willing to sacrifice other people to get what you want, too? Because I think in this episode, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at some points during the whole heist, I think there's multiple situations where Asajj and Lyco have to, like, save one another, essentially.
Right.
From being crushed or falling or whatnot. And they're willing to do so at the price of that gizmo that they're after. Because when it falls and she's like, it's gone. And he's like, no, I can get it. And it's like, no, your life and surviving is more important than that thing we've been sent here to get. Yeah,
it's another one of those teacher student moments.
Yeah. And just one little geek thing is that what the facility that they're there to break into and steal from, what they're building is the shield generator domes from the conning tower of the Imperial Star Destroyer.
Right.
And I like that there's a facility dedicated to just making those domes. And they come crawling out on the big like space shuttle crawler things, like you see at NASA. I like seeing these little glimpses that we've gotten recently into the Imperial sort of supply chain and how they build all this stuff, and clearly bankrupting themselves doing so. But that's a question for another time.
I think of the 3 episodes, this one was the most fun for me. Like I think it moved the characters the least. I think you're right about that. But I love a good heist plot. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of good banter. I liked Lazrazi as a character, and I really liked the droid and the way the droid moved in this creepy sort of spider-like way. And I thought that was awesome.
It was like Grievous, wasn't it?
Yeah, almost.
A bit. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out if I've seen that droid model before. And
I'm not familiar with it myself.
No,
I don't think we've seen it before, but I think it's kind of like pieced. There's different references to different droids and things that we've seen in the past. Because, like I said, the Grievous connection really came out to me with that.
Grievous,
crawling.
IG. There's a bit of HK in there. There's also a bit of the Craft War droid. So it's just like a best of assassin droids.
Yes, I loved it so much. There's just so much rule of cool in this episode, and I was, I'm down for it.
Yeah. All right, so I think we can move on to our final installment of this arc, and that is called One Warrior to Another. So Asajj and Lyko encounter a former separatist commander living in isolation with his granddaughter and in constant conflict with alien raiders over a water source. When Lyko reveals that he can communicate with the aliens, Asajj convinces the old separatist to lay down his arms and negotiate a truce. When Asajj and Lyko finally discover the secret rendezvous point for the path, Lyko says he would rather continue traveling with Ventress instead. All right. The one thing that kind of bugged me about this episode, which I enjoyed it overall, but it's that trope recently in Star Wars where any Jedi can understand any alien because reasons.
Yeah.
I've seen that a couple of times recently, and I'm like, what? Are the Jedi just trained in like a gazillion languages in the temple? I mean, I guess that would be practical because there's all these different species who live there, but is it really it's stretched credulity to me that Lyko would just know how to communicate with these chameleon people who live on this planet that doesn't even have a name.
I mean, I absolutely think the Jedi study some kind of languages, and it may be combined with using the Force to understand, but that wouldn't entirely explain being able to speak back to them. I don't know.
That's not how the Force works.
Yeah. So but yeah, I mean, I just take it as, one more unrealistic trope in Star Wars. I do not come to Star Wars for realism.
No, of course, yeah.
Added to the pile.
Yeah. So I absolutely see and agree with you, Thomas, but it just like That's among the things that I've decided will not bug me.
No, it's a nitpick. Yeah, it did not ruin the episode for me by any means, but I was just like, this again? Grumble. But whatever. I liked the theme of kind of the art of listening to people, dialogue, and dare I say it, accompaniment. I know that word is like a buzzword now, but that's what I got from this episode. Listening to people, trying to understand where people of different perspectives are coming from, because otherwise, they just see these people as like dangerous aliens until the mask comes off that one person and they start communicating. And then it's like, oh, wait, these aren't just faceless enemies. I mean, the Separatist guy has like a trophy wall of like their heads or like masks. But once that mask falls off, there's that opportunity for dialogue.
I think at one point he calls them animals.
Yeah. He says they're animal. What does he say? They're animals. I can't speak to them.
Yeah.
He says, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the key point where Lyko steps forward and says, but I can.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taking that annoying trope that you of languages and turning it into the major plot point here. Yeah.
It what's interesting as we're speaking, I'm realizing that even at the very beginning of the episode, the grandfather is also listening and observing these two strangers that are coming into his home, right? Like he's recognizing.
He even says, don't make assumptions. When the granddaughter says they're Jedi, yet he's made assumptions about these aliens that he knows nothing about.
Right. Yeah. So he's willing to listen and observe and give credit to a certain kind of creature, I guess you could say, but not to these others. And so, that might have, I don't know, because as a separatist, he had to work with aliens. So I don't know. Yep. It probably isn't like a racism thing, so to speak, but more so his concept of being at war constantly, that they're, really trying to hit home to you as a viewer of this, as an audience member of this episode.
Lady Ventress is on my side.
Right, yeah. Right. And they did say that in fighting these creatures is how he got paralyzed, apparently. So I think he holds it against them that, I'm bound to this chair because of them. They're animals. They did this to me. So I think it may be like personal as well.
Yeah. And so Lyko is also kind of recruiting Asajj. He's teaching Asajj too, because when they have the water and everything and they've come to the decision that they want to listen and dialogue and accompany and all these things. And then she says, well, good luck convincing the old man. And he says, that's where you come in. And so Asajj understands his mindset, his experiences, because she was in the Clone Wars. She knows what it's like, right, to be in that mindset that he's in. And so then she has to be the bridge for him. So that was pretty cool too. It's kind of like everybody has a part to play. Even the granddaughter, the granddaughter non-verbally is helping along her grandfather. I think she kind of like pushes his weapon to the side or something like that from the side, and just has these really sweet, shy looks. But that's another, everybody has their own part to play.
I do have to say, I always loved the glimpses into the non-droid element of the Separatists. Because I've always headcanoned it that the droid army was what the Separatists built to go up against the clone army. But there had to have been Separatist guerrilla forces and irregular troops on planets all over the galaxy made up of living beings. And so I've always liked seeing the Separatists humanized in that way, like getting to meet actual human beings and alien beings who fought for the Separatists and had their reasons for doing so, because I think it makes that faction more complex than just Newt Gunray and his army of robots, so I enjoyed that a lot. And I liked the theme of, like, this is an old soldier who can't let go of the violence, that he experienced as a commander for the Confederacy of Independent Systems. And there was almost a kind of Western vibe to this, where he literally could have been an old Confederate soldier, like in a Western, like out in the middle of nowhere, and, the Raiders could stand in for, a Native American tribe. And it had that kind of, now that I've started watching more Westerns for secrets of movies and TV, I start to notice the influences of it in Star Wars. But I like that they explored that idea that this lifestyle of violence, of needing somebody to hate, it becomes a crutch that, a lot of people they don't know what they would do without this life.
Yeah. Yeah. So talking about the droid army, which pre-existed the clone army, or at least we knew about it, and the Separatists didn't know about the clone army
right
until they had already built up quite a droid army. But
Sidious knew, though.
fair.
Yeah.
But the idea of the droid army versus the clone army, both sides are very much putting forth people to do their fighting for them. And it's we, even in the news, when there's a violent conflict, it's like, oh, will American boots be on the ground or not? Will we be putting American lives at risk?
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to go to war when you have somebody else to do the fighting for you. Whether it's a droid or a clone, or somebody
proxy,
dehumanized in some manner, right? And maybe harder to let go of the violence when you're so used to violence being an easy answer to your problems.
Yeah. He's, on a lighter note of that, he's even repurposed some of his battle droids as scarecrows around his house, to which Asajj says, as effective as ever.
Yes.
Because they're doing nothing,
I liked that line a lot.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Lyco's ultimate decision, or maybe it was just his incompetence, as Asajj intimated, that maybe he missed the ship? But in either case, what do you think of this ending where, they sort of ride off into the sunset? They're still together as a duo, and Lyco not going with the path. You have any thoughts on that, Angela?
Yeah. Ultimately, he started off this journey on his own, feeling very lonely, looking for the path because it was something that would lead to a familiar ending for him. And I think he found in Asajj the mentor, the master, right? That friend, buddy kind of character, person that he really wanted, he was longing for in the first place. At the beginning, she says, well, I'm sure there's someone who can help you, right? And he says, everyone I know is dead. And
same
she
kid.
says, same. So this bond that they have, he realizes, you know what? This is what I've been looking for. It's here. It's not somewhere else. So I think ultimately, he didn't want her to be in the position that he was in originally, right? Which was all by himself.
Alone.
So he chooses to kind of repay the favor, right, that she's been paying him of, okay, I'll help you out. I'll be there for you. I'll defend you. I'll, show you the way and show you the ropes. And now he's like, okay, well, let's do this. I'm in. So I think that's why he stays.
You have any other thoughts about it, Robert?
I kind of think of it as a both and. I think he did miss the ship.
Very possible.
Yes.
But I think he also was kind of ambivalent about it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, do I want to go on this ship if Asajj isn't going to come with me? Do I want to leave Asajj alone? And I do think there's still some of this master apprentice dynamic coming through, that he's beginning to see how much he has to teach her, how much she grows around him, as maybe even more than he's growing around her.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of recording tonight, I was thinking, like she comes out of the pool and she says, what do I have? What's the price of coming back to life? And it's like, your heart's desire. And it makes me wonder if Asajj has to let go of her solitude, let go of her self-sufficiency, and recognize, her heart's desire. Like she like at that moment, she may be like, fine, I hate my heart's desire. I hate the fact that my heart desires things. I want to kill my desire, kill it. And so she tries to do that, and her heart's desire that she has to sacrifice is to admit that her heart has desires, and that her heart needs that connection to other people after all, and that it's not in her control. Because I was about to say, it's almost like this is not really Asajj's story, it's Lyco's story. He's the one who changes over the course of the episodes, but I may have talked myself into thinking, oh yeah, Asajj has an arc too.
Yeah, and it's like, we're not, as social beings, and in Star Wars that includes both humans and aliens, are not created to be alone. We're created for communion with other beings. And I think that, Asajj has to put aside that pride in being, I don't need anybody. And when I get close to people, they die anyway. So I shouldn't have anybody around me, and kind of put that aside to be like, no, I think it's better this way to be, to have someone, to have my back, essentially. And yeah,
that's really, really fascinating to think about, because in the later part of the timeline, when we see Asajj in the recent Star Wars material that has come out, I really kind of felt like Asajj was more rooted of a character. Kind of like her soul was rooted, she had her both feet on the ground, that she almost seemed more whole in a certain sense, more self-assured, but not in the confident, swaggy, type of self-assuredness that she had at the start of her story, right? That we're so used to from the Clone Wars. And I always wondered, was it because of her relationship with Quinlan? Was that kind of like a healing thing for her? And I really think through our conversation today that maybe Quinlan was kind of the start of that, but this healing process maybe continued with Lyco, and then who knows, where it turned out from there. But it really does seem like she's being healed, from a lot of that betrayal and abandonment, all those issues that she had previously. that now with learning, to be a friend, to trust, like you're saying, Robert, that realizing that her heart's desire is actually something important, right? That not a thing to be jealous about, but there's like an interior freedom that she can have that she hasn't really had like this before. So yeah, I appreciate this thought of her kind of being healed through these relationships.
Well, I'm thinking of the was it Tales of the Empire, the Barra Sophie arc, where again she also like finds healing and becomes a healer herself.
Yeah. That's my favorite. That's my favorite arc.
It's my favorite too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that the kind of wounded healer archetype.
Right, right.
From mythologies around the world. That Star Wars is so great at assimilating.
Oh yes.
These great archetypes. I really want to see where they go next. Where's the further adventures of Asajj and Lyko? I am fully on board with this as like an action, Star Wars duo. I like it.
Yeah.
I guess my only other thought was that, like, when I was watching this, I'm like, for Tales of the Underworld, I thought there'd be more Underworld activity in this first arc. But I think, and I haven't seen the Cad Bane ones yet either, but I think we're going to get more traditional Underworld skullduggery in those, I think. But do you guys have any final wrap-up thoughts on the Tales of the Underworld, Asajj Ventress?
I agree. I was expecting more Underworld in this series, and maybe that's why I liked the second one best, because there was that Underworld skullduggery going on. But yeah, I think my wrap up is just that. Yeah, I came into this feeling still a little disappointed in the series, and through this conversation, I think I am not only less disappointed, but I am finding more enjoyment in it than I expected to in the first place. So,
nice.
So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Yeah. Well, how about you, Angela?
I just wanted to point out that the director of this arc, Nate Villanueva, he worked on Clone Wars, Rebels, and Resistance in the art department. And then he directed 17 episodes of The Bad Batch.
Really?
So, yes. So I found that to be really interesting because The Bad Batch is very relationship based, and, we see a lot of the dynamics of the heart as well in The Bad Batch and relationships and how people change and grow and healing and all this stuff. So, yeah.
Do you know if he directed the episode with Asajj Ventress in it?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look that up specifically, but that would make a lot of sense if he did.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So that is it for this Secrets of Star Wars discussion. But before we go, we'd like to take a brief moment to thank our great patrons, including Ann H., Randy W., Mary K., Brian D., and Jack W. Their generous donations help us to create the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest. And you can join them at sqpn.com/give. And now we'd like to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on Tales of the Underworld? You can let us know by sending us an email at starwars@sqpn.com. You can find us on our social media pages, or you can leave a comment on YouTube or on Spotify now as well, or by joining the conversation on our channel at the StarQuest Discord community, which you can find at sqpn.com/discord. Until next time, Robert King, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
Always a pleasure, Thomas.
And Angela Sealana, thank you as well.
Thank you for hosting, Thomas.
And once again, I'm Thomas Salerno. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another podcast on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/secrets.